Welcome back. This is Module 2, Lesson 13, Problem Set. We are continuing to work on rounding 2- and 3-digit numbers to the nearest 10 using a number line. So number 1 here says round to the nearest 10. Use the number line to model your thinking. So I'm going to do number 1A. We aren't going to do all the problems. I'm going to model a few, and then I'm going to ask you to go back and do a couple more on your own to see if you can do it on your own. Letter A, they've given us a lot of the answers. The first thing we're going to do when we are modeling this on a number line is we're going to draw a number line as you see it here. And we're going to label the lowest 10 and the highest 10 for where this number comes in between. So we're labeling the two 10s that this number falls in between. Then what we need to label is the halfway point, and you did lots of this in the concept development video. So we labeled the halfway point. Halfway between 30 and 40 is 35. Then we label the actual number, and it's really easy to see which 10 32 is closest to. 32 is about 30. This little squiggly line here means about. It means we're rounding to the nearest 10. In this case, the nearest 10. So that little squiggly equal, it looks like an equal sign, but it's squiggly. That means about. Okay, so you might want to write that down on your paper. Let's go ahead and look at letter C. Letter C is asking us to round to the number 62 to the nearest 10. So they've already set up part of the number line for us. I'm going to label the lowest 10, which is 60, and the higher 10, which is 70. Halfway between 60 and 70 is 65. So I'm going to label that on my number line. And then I'm going to put 62 where it would fall. 62 is less than 65, but a little more than 60. So I'm going to put it right there. And it's clear to see that 62 is about 60. It rounds to 60 when we're doing the nearest 10. Letter D, let's go ahead and do letter D. Letter D is a 3-digit number, but we're still rounding to the nearest 10. So when I think about 162, the closest 10, the lower 10, is 160. The hundreds doesn't change. We're only looking at the tens place. And the higher 10 is 170. Halfway between 160 and 170 is 165. So we're really just looking at the tens and the ones right now. The 100 stays the same. 162 is just a little bit higher than the 160. So 162 is about 160. And as we're practicing these, I want you to be saying exactly what I am. 162 is about 160. Your parents should hear you saying that at home. Next, 278, letter E, 278. Remember, the 2 in the hundreds place is going to stay the same. We're not doing anything with our hundreds. So the lower 10 for 78 would be 270, and the higher 10 would be 280. Halfway between 270 and 280 is 275. And I know that when I look at 78, that is more than 75. So I'm going to put it right about here. It doesn't have to be exact. Remember, this is our visual to kind of see what 10 the number is closer to. Since 278 is past the halfway point, I'm going to round up to 280. It's closer to 280. There are some other problems on this page. If you want to try them yourself, you can. Let's go ahead and move on to number 2. Question number 2, the directions say, read with me, round the weight of each item to the nearest 10 grams. Draw number lines to model your thinking. So we're going to model our thinking with a number line. So they've given us the item, a box to put our number line, and then our final answer for what 10 grams it's closest to. So I'm going to start by drawing my number line right here. And they've given us 36 grams. I know I'm going to need a lower 10, a higher 10, and a number in the middle. 36. The lower 10 is, go ahead and write it, 30 grams. And remember, boys and girls, stop the video anytime you need to if it's going too fast or you need to take a break or whatever you need to do. Just pause the video, get caught up, and then move on. So we have 30 as the lower 10. The higher 10 is 40 grams. Go ahead and mark your halfway point between 30 and 40. And it should be 35 grams. The actual item that we have, chips, yummy chips, is 36 grams. I'm going to mark that 36 is just a little bit higher than 35. I'm going to mark it over here just because I don't have space over here and I don't want to crowd it too much. But we can clearly see that on our number line, 36 is past the halfway point. So rounded to the nearest 10 grams, this bag of chips, we would say is 40 grams. Let me just switch my lights on here. The next one, maybe it's a box of Pop-Tarts, is 52 grams. So we're going to go ahead and make our number line as straight as you can. We're going to put our lower 10, higher 10, and our number in the middle. Go ahead and mark your lower 10 and your higher 10. Which two 10s does 52 come in between? Hopefully, you're labeling 50 grams and 60 grams. And mark your halfway point. Be halfway between 50 and 60 would be 55 grams. Our actual weight is 52 grams, which is just above 50, not much higher than 50. And that gives us a clear visual that 52 is not at least halfway. So go ahead and write in the third box, rounded to the nearest 10 grams, it would be 50 grams. Next, 142 grams for, it looks like a can of tuna fish. I love tuna fish, very healthy. I'm going to go ahead and make my number line. I'm going to make the line for my lower 10, my higher 10, and the one in the middle. Now this is 3 digits, but we're only talking about the tens place. So that 100 is, we're not changing anything with our 100. The lower 10, 42, comes between 140 grams and what's your higher 10 going to be? 150 grams. Halfway between 140 and 150, go ahead and write that down. Hopefully you wrote 145 grams. And our actual is 142, which again, just like 52 up here, is just above 140. So I'm going to label my 142 grams. And we can clearly see that rounded to the nearest 10, it's closer to 140 grams. Hopefully you got that correct. Okay. I would like to go ahead and number 3 is a time one. So let's go ahead and do number 3 together. Carl's basketball game begins at 3:03 and ends at 3:51 p.m. How many minutes did Carl's basketball game last? So what we can do, we can subtract we're talking about we're in the same hour, so we can subtract our 51 minutes, our ending time, and take away our beginning minutes when it started, and we end up with 48 minutes. So Carl's game lasted 48 minutes. Now the next question says, letter B, round the total number of minutes in the game to the nearest 10 minutes. So again, we can use a number line. Even though we're talking about minutes, we can still round to the nearest 10 minutes. 48, we would have 40 minutes or 50 minutes. It comes between 40 and 50 minutes. Halfway is 45 minutes. Let's label our actual minutes, which is 48 minutes. So rounded to the nearest 10 would be 50 minutes. Boys and girls, feel free to go back and do any of the other problems that you would like. You should submit your problem set on Schoology to me.